Now I'd like to introduce you to your presenter today. Kristy Genga is Assistant Vice President of UniPay by UniBank. She has been with UniBank for 12 years. 8 of those years she has been dedicated to our successful UniPay system. An expert in the system, Kristy prides herself on working with clients to achieve their goals. Now I'm pleased to turn the presentation over to Kristy.
Great, thank you, Katie. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad that you're here to listen in and hear a little bit more about our UniPay product. As Katie just mentioned, she's going to be helping out with sharing your questions, so please don't hesitate to jump in at any time. I have a lot of material, and I certainly want to ensure that you're getting the most out of the session, so feel free to ask questions at any time throughout. Looking at the registrations, I know we had a mix of folks that registered. Some of you are our current UniBank customers, and I have some others that might not bank with us just yet. So just to get us started, I wanted to provide a little bit of a background of who we are and what we're all about here at UniBank. At our core, we are a community bank. We work here and we live here. We've grown quite substantially over the years, and we're really continuing on that path. You can find our brick and mortar branches throughout the Blackstone Valley and Central Massachusetts, but we also have an online presence that allows us to span that reach even further. So that's really the great thing about technology, right? I mean, you can access our services from virtually anywhere. This year, we're celebrating our 150-year anniversary. 2020 certainly looked a lot different than anyone could have anticipated, but now more than ever, UniBank is still committed to our customers and the communities that we serve. So I wanted to just take a quick poll of our audience today and see who here has used the UniPay system to make a payment online in the past. So it could have been to another business that you made the payment to. Maybe it was a payment to your child's PTO, maybe to their school for athletic fees, or even paying your taxes like maybe real estate or excise. So we'll just give it a minute here and let everybody cast their vote.
Okay, I'm going to close up the poll now. Thank you all for participating.
Okay, perfect. So it looks like we're a little bit split here, which is great. So let me keep going here with a little bit more background, and hopefully that will help. So UniPay first was developed back in 2004. That was our first original version of the system. It was created off of a request from one of our municipal customers. And yes, you heard that right. We created an entire online payment solution just to meet the needs of one of our customers. This customer in particular needed a way to receive payments electronically that was both user-friendly for the residents of the town, yet still provided the Treasurer's Department with all of the information they might need in order to successfully post that payment in their back end. You see, this was around the time when banks were starting to offer online banking with the bill pay functionality. I'm sure you all are familiar with that service. While it was really convenient for the residents to make their payments this way, there was a delay in receiving the physical checks that were cut out from the bank, and then there was an even longer delay in posting the payments due to missing or confusing information when the towns finally did receive those checks. So I'm not sure if any of you here have experienced those same delays, but it certainly can be frustrating. So with all of that confusion, on top of municipal budgets and staff being cut, there was a real need to streamline the collections process, and so UniPay was born. The system really took off for our municipal customers, and we've maintained over 85% of the municipal marketplace in Massachusetts for many years now. In addition to that, it's expanded beyond the Commonwealth, and you can see our product in other states as well. Long story short, the good news is that typically your customers, they might already be using the UniPay system in some capacity, whether or not they realize it. So getting back to that poll I just had you take, maybe now with some additional information, you realize that you might have actually used the UniPay system in the past yourself. We realized quickly that the proprietary system we built could also be used for more than just municipalities. We started offering it to businesses and nonprofits, and we found that it can be successful with such a wide range of all of these different organizations. Hospitals like Milford Regional here, they can collect their patient payments. Churches can collect donations or tithing, and property managers can collect their rents or lease payments. The possibilities here are virtually endless, so that's why I'm really excited that you're all here to see if UniPay might also work for your organizations and your collections. All right. So I'm going to be talking here for a while now. Again, please don't hesitate to jump in if you have any questions or comments as I go. Today, I'm going to walk you through an overview of the UniPay system and the benefits to your organization. Next, we're going to take a look at how this affects your customers, and then we'll cover why they would want to use the UniPay system to make their payments to you. And last but not least, I'll share why UniPay is unique in comparison to all the other online payment options out there, and I'll share with you my personal top 5 reasons of what really sets UniPay apart. Katie, do we have any questions before I get rolling here?
No questions yet, Kristy.
Okay. So what is UniPay? That's what we're all here for, right? Keeping things as simple as possible, UniPay is a way for you to collect payments online. It's a way for you to reduce or even eliminate those in-person cash transactions or mailed checks by making the system available to your customers 24/7. And in the process, you'll be increasing your chances of improving that cash flow overall. These days, there are so many options for online collections, and no two systems are exactly the same. It comes down to figuring out what's most important and effective for your business and operations. UniPay is a secure, convenient solution, and the payment center is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This means when your office doors are closed, whether that's due to the pandemic or simply it's just after hours, your customers can still submit their payments to you virtually. As you can imagine, technology is constantly evolving and changing. Over the years, we've added many new features and functionality to keep up with the industry. While some organizations want to keep things, as simple and streamlined as possible, others want to offer all of the different bells and whistles that we offer. So that might include recurring payment plans or a text alert. The beauty of UniPay is that it can be as simple or as sophisticated as you want, and there's no additional cost involved for adding on all those extra features. Another important part of UniPay and UniBank in general is our level of customer service. For those of you here with us today that are our current customers, I hope you can agree that we really take pride in assisting you to our fullest capacity, whether that means we individually know the answers or we rally a team together of our colleagues and we help you out. With UniPay, we will personally be there to assist with the setup and provide recommendations based on the conversations that we'll have. And once you're live and accepting those payments, we don't just disappear. You can count on our full staff that's specifically devoted to assisting our UniPay customers. Each one of them, they are all extremely knowledgeable, and they're just an email or a phone call away.
Kristy, I do have a question that just came in. What about the people making the payments online to the businesses or someone making a donation through UniPay? Is there support offered to them?
Yes. So that same level of support that we give to the businesses or the organization is also extended out to everybody paying. Our email address and the toll-free number to access our support staff is all available to them throughout the payment process. So we can assist them directly without putting any of that pressure or responsibility back on the organization to handle those calls. You have any other questions that came in, Katie?
No other questions now.
Okay. All right. Now, the UniPay system has two separate components. The first is our UniPay Payment Center, and this is where your customers will submit their payments to you. The second piece is the Administration Center, and this is where you'll be able to view any details of all the payments that your customers have made or donations. So this first look here, this will be geared towards the benefits to you as we go through the setup on the Payment Center. As a financial institution, it was really important to us that we ensure the safety and security of all payments throughout our system. We're heavily regulated, as you can imagine, and we adhere to all the requirements set forth from NEACH, NACHA, the federal and state auditors, as well as any external or internal auditors that we have. In addition, we're also following all of the industry standard verification measures, and those are reviewed and tested on a daily basis in order to ensure our compliance. Now, you might be wondering how your customers actually gain access to the UniPay Payment Center. And this really can be as flexible as you want, and it's not just limited to one way. Once your setup is complete, we provide you with a simple URL to your personalized UniPay payment page. This link can be placed on your own website, put on social media pages, or on any invoices you send out, whether you do a physical mailing or maybe you want them to click a link within your email distribution. We also include an electronic marketing kit, which includes our logo to be used as a payment button on your website, and also some templates for posters and buck slips. And that helps you really to spread the word that you're now offering online payments through the UniPay system to your customers. Once they click on the link for UniPay, they'll be directed over to your own personalized payment page. Based on your current collections process and what you're hoping to get out of UniPay, we'll go ahead and create that payment center that meets your needs. During our setup process, we'll provide examples of what has worked for others, and then we can also see if that works for you. We want to ensure more than anything else that you have all the information you need to be able to post the payment, and also that it's a user-friendly experience for your customers and donors as well. Some of our customers prefer to leave the fields open. As you can see here in this donations and giving transaction, all the fields here are open. A donor would simply fill in the requested information. And then we have other customers that prefer to provide UniPay with a file containing their payer's information, like you can see here in Pay Invoice. Your customers would simply enter in a piece of identifying information, such as, in this case, the invoice number. And by doing that, the payment screen would populate with all of the information so that they don't need to type it in themselves. We have optional functionality here that allows us to set up a registration limit. So in the case that you're selling event tickets, or maybe it's a registration for a class and you need to limit that size, we can go ahead and also include an option for people to pay with multiple quantities. They can select to do multiple quantities at once. Once we know what you're looking to receive for the information after the payment's made, then we kind of work backwards and decide what information should we collect on this front end of the payment center that your customers would see.
Kristy, I have a two-part question from one of our attendees. The first part of the question is, how is UniPay different than the ACH and wires section of the UniBank business online portal?
Okay, yes, great question. So UniPay is separate from online banking and those business functionality pieces. One of the biggest differences would be that instead of you as the organization or business needing to set up the ACH or wire on your end, this is putting it back on your customers to establish that. Now, they might be doing that on their own online banking and you receive ACH that way in the traditional sense. But the beauty of UniPay is that both parties are a little bit more protected as far as the information sharing goes. So basically, you do not need to give them your bank account information for them to initiate the ACH on their end, and vice versa. You don't need to collect or even save any of that, personal information as far as their bank account goes on your end to be able to set up the ongoing or recurring ACH transactions. This is all contained behind the system, behind the scenes of UniPay, and so they can securely enter that information and manage it on their end. And the second part to that question, Katie?
Sure. So the second part of the question is, can UniPay be used to pay our vendors?
That's a great question. If they sign up with a UniPay account, absolutely. So we do need the vendor to be a customer of UniPay. They would set up their own UniPay payment center that would allow you to access it and go ahead and make your payment in that way.
Okay, great. And I do have one more question here.
Okay.
In addition to collecting information at the time of payment, how exactly would I know that I have a payment received? Is there some kind of alert or notification?
Yes. So we have the ability to provide a real-time detailed receipt at the time of the payment. And then we can also send a daily overview, which is more like a notification that would prompt the business owner to go ahead into the administration center. That's the second part that I'll jump into in a minute here. But actually, before I jump into that, just to piggyback off, I know there are a lot of features that we'll talk about here. There are so many ways that you can use and set up UniPay. And one thing that I know I personally try to do, I know the team does as well, is we really try to make it as easy as possible for our customers to decide what's going to work best. If it's just UniPay, if it's a combination approach, we're able to help them through the process. All right. Were there any other questions before I jump into the administration center?
No other questions at this time.
All right. So now, once the payments have been made, there are a few different ways that you can retrieve the information. So I just mentioned there the email notification, but there are also multiple reports that would be available to you. You can view these reports in real time, or you can pull them between a specific date range. So some folks like to only post or gather the information on a weekly basis. Let's say in the case of a daycare, where the cutoff is the Friday before, they'll go ahead and pull all of the payments made that previous week so that they can update their records. Others are curious to see how much their users are accessing the UniPay system. So maybe they'll pull the report to see all of the data, all of the payments since inception, since they started using the program. All of these reports, regardless of how you pull them, they can be viewed online. You can print them out, or you can also export them. There's an export feature that includes Word, Excel, or even the PDF for your records. In addition to that, we also have a research portal that's available to you. It allows you to search by a person's name or their email address, and then we also have a unique confirmation number that's provided at the end of the payment process, so you could even search by that number to pull up the payment information. Some customers certainly like to post their payments using those two methods, either the report or the research portal. But we do have other customers that like to use our electronic lockbox file. And what this is that it allows you to download all of your payments, again, for a specified date range, your choice, and it goes into a file format that works for you. So a lot of folks prefer just a simple CSV Excel spreadsheet type of look to it. Or if you have a need to import that into another software perhaps or database that you use, we can work with you to format the lockbox into a file format that would work for that program.
I do have another question, Kristy. It kind of ties back into the prior question about UniBank's online banking system. Does UniPay connect into UniBank's online banking system at all?
So the UniPay Admin Center is actually, like I said, is separate from online banking. So the beauty of that is it allows you to kind of limit who has access into your online banking. So by having it separate, any of your staff can access the payment details for posting on the UniPay Admin Center, and that way you don't have to be worried about them also having access to moving any money or being able to view the actual bank account. We do have a bank reconciliation report, one of those reporting features that I mentioned above. One of them is the bank reconciliation report, and that actually will assist with identifying when to expect each of the deposits to hit your bank account. So there is some connection between the Admin Center and online banking, but as far as the visibility, that is separate. Okay. So those are the specific details to the business or nonprofit organization. Any other questions, Katie, before I jump over to the benefits to their customers?
Yeah, we have a lot of great questions today. Here's another one. Do I have to have my accounts with UniBank to use the system?
Great question. So my short answer is that we only require one checking account here at UniBank, and that's just so that the payments can easily funnel into them once they're made on the UniPay system. My longer answer to that, we of course realize that there might be some reasons to keep your operating account or even the full banking relationship somewhere else, but we really would love to earn everyone's trust and business over time. And I'll do just a quick plug for our retail, business banking, and the commercial teams here at UniBank. They really are exceptional when it comes to finding different products that might suit your needs. They have everything from free business level bank accounts. We have a full cash management suite. And getting back to the question about the wires and the traditional bank ACH, that's all available to our business customers. And of course, all the different lending opportunities. 2020 for us, we were hit with a whole lot of stuff going on, but UniBank gave out over 600 PPP loans this year to our customers, which I think it just speaks volumes for our commitment to our customer base. So wherever the person is, whether you're local and you can visit one of our 13 branches, or whether you need to manage everything completely remote, we're able to accommodate that. Okay. Any other questions, Katie?
Yep, we actually have another question. Is there a way to integrate or merge the payment system to QuickBooks?
Great question. I get that one a lot, actually. So with the lockbox file, we are able to do it in different formats. So it would just be a conversation and some testing involved that we would do to make sure that we could accommodate that format for you in the future. Otherwise, you'd still be able to post the payments manually, as they come in, or using the lockbox file. But I would certainly want to talk with you some more to see which version. Of course, there are so many different versions of QuickBooks out there. So we'd want to make sure we knew what version you were working on to see what file format we have to put that in so that you could connect the two.
I have another question, Kristy. Do our customers have to open a UniBank account to pay us?
No, they do not. So what happens is they're able to use any major credit card or their bank account. They can link up anything onto the UniPay system. They do not have to be affiliated with UniBank at all.
Great, and I think you just answered another user question here. Someone asked if they could use credit cards to make payments. So I assume the answer there is yes, right?
Perfect. Yes, and actually, a little bit further on in the presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about the two payment methods available, so the credit card and the ACH. So I'll get into that a little bit further on in the presentation here.
Okay, great.
Okay. All righty, so moving right along to kind of cover why your customers, that is, would even want to use UniPay, right? So the biggest factor that I see is convenience. UniPay allows them to submit their payment online at any time. So that's whether it's during normal business hours that you might have, or if they're anything like me, maybe at midnight when you realize you have to make that payment. These days are so fluid. People are finding themselves completing their to-do list literally whenever time allows them to get to it. So by offering online payments, you're opening yourself up to capture those payments at any time, which will increase that cash flow overall. We've developed the system to be as user-friendly as possible. I think that's a really big benefit to them. And we do continue to add in enhancements. As you can imagine, back from 2004 to now in 2020, we've had many enhancements to the system to improve it and to make it the best user experience possible. One of the biggest pros that I've heard about UniPay from the end user point of view in comparison to some other systems out there is that we don't require the login to be required. So your customers are able to access that system and they can proceed with just a one-time payment without needing to remember another username and password. That being said, of course, there are some benefits to completing the payment as a registered user. So I'll go over those in a little bit more detail in a minute here. Another big thing is that with our UniPay system already being widespread, over the Commonwealth with taxes and fees, and even beyond, the state borders too, there's a really good chance that your customers have already used our system. And regardless of if they have or haven't, the online process to make your payment is very comparable to other payment sites in the industry, and it's very user-friendly overall. And last here is our responsive design. So whether your customers are on the go, maybe they're accessing UniPay from their mobile device or their tablet, or maybe they're sitting in the office and they're using their desktop computer, the UniPay system has that responsive design. So it ensures that all of the payments, the user experience is top-notch regardless of how they're accessing the payment center.
Great. I have a few questions here, Kristy. What, if any, are the charges for using the system?
Great question. I'm actually going to put a pin in that one, for lack of a better term. I'll mention that at the end. Very competitive pricing, though. I think you'll find it to be extremely cost-effective with the fees, but I'll touch on that at the end.
Okay, so we'll jump to the next question. Can HUD or government agency pay us through UniBank?
Yes. So anybody with any type of bank account or the credit card are able to go into the system to make the payment. So again, they can access that as just a one-time, user, or they could set up and register as an account, which I'll go over some of those details in a minute. But by registering, they could even set up a profile with us so that they can pay you on a regular basis if that's the case. So yes, anybody who needs to pay you would be able to access it through the UniPay Payment Center.
Great. Those are all the questions for now.
Okay, perfect. So let's see here. As promised, I wanted to expand a little bit more just about some of those features available to your customers if they do choose to register for free for that free UniPay account. And, like the question came up earlier about whether or not they need to have a UniBank account, they can pay from any bank account or major credit card if you choose to make those payment options available to them. So they do not have to have a UniBank account to use the system. By registering on the UniPay system, they have the ability to set up recurring payments. So this feature is a great one if anybody out there is collecting donations, or maybe you have payment plans available for your services. Thinking about anybody with maybe an annual or monthly retainer for their services, you can allow your customers to set up a recurring plan so that they set it up once and then it just happens automatically after that. Registered users can also receive email or text notifications when they have a bill that is available for payment. So this feature is one that's available to you as the business if you choose to set it up in that manner. So I mentioned before about donations was just kind of an open field setup, whereas the invoice example from earlier was more file-based, where the information pre-filled. So if you did set it up with a file-based transaction, you could allow for these email and text payment notifications, and basically that would mean that your customers can be alerted as soon as a payment is available to be paid online. Your customers also would have the ability to send themselves payment reminders. So maybe it's a case of they're waiting for their paycheck to come in before they're able to submit the payment to you. So they have the bill in front of them, but they're not quite able to pay it just yet. They could simply make a note on the UniPay system to remind themselves, and we would send that reminder to them on the day they get paid so that they could clear up their account with you. And these last two here, perhaps the biggest two benefits in my opinion. Number one, the ability to save the payment information for future use, and then also the ability for those users to view any past payment history on the system. So the first there, instead of needing to enter any billing or account information every time they make the payment, registered users are able to securely save it in the system, and that way it's pre-filled when they go to submit their payment. And then the last point there, if they do register, they also can see all of the past payment history. So that's not only to, payments that they've made to your organization, but also if they've made payments to any other businesses or any other municipalities through the UniPay system, they're able to see that. And they can filter those results. So they can filter it by the business, they can filter it by the date range, or even by the type of payment that they made.
Great. Kristy, I'm going to jump back a tiny bit. We had a question about the benefits too. Does that mean, is there an app for UniPay?
There is no app for UniPay, so they don't have to download another one to their phone. It's all web-based. It's all accessible through the website, and again, you can offer that to your customers in all kinds of ways, whether it's just on your website or you have it on your social media pages or you're sending it to them directly, so they don't need to add another app to their phone.
Great. And then one other question here. Someone in the audience is wondering what types of payments are accepted on UniPay. Do you also accept PayPal or Apple Pay?
So what you can do on UniPay, you can accept an ACH payment. So basically that's an electronic check. It takes the place of a physical check there. And then, as I mentioned, all the major credit cards and debit cards. So we don't have on there, the PayPals or the Apple Pays at this time. It's strictly the ACH from their checking account, and then also all of the major credit cards. And actually, this is a good time, Katie, for our next poll that we had. I'm curious, based on the audience here, who currently accepts credit cards for the organization, and who in the audience here does not. So if you guys could enter your responses, please.
Great, we'll just give this another few seconds here and get your poll in. And I'm going to close it out and we'll show our responses. Thanks everyone for participating.
Okay, perfect. So it looks like we're pretty split down the middle for the poll results here. The reason I ask is because the majority of our current UniPay business customers, they actually only offer the ACH payment method. So that's, again, through their customers' checking accounts, that electronic check. For those customers, it replaces those physical checks that were coming in the mail. And now, as a benefit to their customers, now they have that new convenient way to submit the same information just securely online. For those customers that do want to accept credit cards, we do offer it. We partner with a merchant processor, and they'll go through, handle all of their needs to set them up on UniPay. And then they also have the opportunity to use them for any of their in-person transactions as well, if that's a need that you might have. The processor, they really have a great meet or beat mentality when it comes to their pricing, so they can provide any comparison proposals or anything like that if you are interested in offering credit cards on the UniPay system. And again, pricing came up earlier, so I'll talk a little bit about that. Something for you to keep in mind. For anybody out there, we have 45% of you that currently accepts credit cards. You know how those merchant processing fees, they can add up. Basically, they're set to go off of a percentage, which is based off of the dollar amount paid for each transaction. If you offer on the UniPay system the ACH or electronic check payment method, it's only one low per item fee, regardless of the amount of the payment or donation. So if somebody pays you $1 versus $1,000, it's the same fee regardless when you use electronic check. So there really are some big cost savings with that. And I think that's probably why the majority of our customers tend to push people towards that electronic check method as they use the UniPay system. So, but you really can do anything. You can choose to just collect ACH or electronic check. You can do credit card. You can do both. Some of our customers actually decide they'll start out with just the electronic check method. They kind of test the waters and see if that meets their needs. And then if they are getting a lot of demand from their customers, people really want to get those credit card points perhaps, then maybe they'll explore adding credit card in the future. Okay. Katie, do you have any other questions for me?
Yep, I do. Can you tell us more about the recurring payments? Does the business need to do anything to manage those?
That's a great question. So your organization, you'd have the ability to offer this feature just depending on whether or not it's actually typical for your business. So if it's not something that happens in your business line, if it's just a lot of one-time payments, or maybe it's not the same dollar amount, this wouldn't apply. But for those that have recurring payments or even donations that they would like to start getting, you're enabling your customers to set everything up themselves. You don't need to manage or track it, which again, comparing it to the traditional bank ACH, where you're pulling that file on a specific time, date or time, this allows your customers to set up the process there on their own. Basically what they do, they would just follow the steps. We have a payment wizard, a recurring payment wizard. They would go through, verify their account. They're going to select the frequency that they want to pay. So, whether that's once a week they want to submit a donation, maybe it's once a month, they'll set that in the wizard during that process. And then as far as the business or the organization goes, you're going to receive those notifications just the same way that a one-time payment notification would come through. So you don't have to go looking for that information anywhere. All right. Any other questions, Katie?
I do actually have a couple other questions that just came in.
Okay.
Let's see. What is the fee for electronic checks?
Perfect, great question. So it's just 50 cents a transaction that we do. And, you know, again, we'll have some other conversations about how you'd like to have it set up. But if you only offer the ACH electronic check method, you actually have the option where the business can absorb that fee and they can pay it themselves, or you could pass it on to the person making the payment.
And one more question here. Can the customer pay via money order?
They would not be able to do that. So it does need to be from a physical bank account that they would submit the payment. So either, you know, their credit card number and information, or their physical, the routing and bank account number associated with their financial institution.
Great. No more questions right now, Kristy.
Okay. All right. So that was a lot. I appreciate all the questions, though. That makes it a little bit more interesting. So I hope everybody's still with me, but I wanted to make sure, you know, we kind of got into the nitty-gritty of all the high points there. So moving right along, let me share with you a quick testimonial that we received from one of our customers. Scott Sutter here, he's from Strategic Risk Transfers in Worcester, Mass. He came to us in the spring and he needed to shift. So he was getting a ton of checks in the mail, and he really wanted a more streamlined approach and was leaning towards doing something with online payments. So as you can see from his testimonial here, not only is UniPay working for him, speeds up his cash flow, simplifying his accounting, but his customers are also loving it. Over the years, we've built so many great customer relationships from a variety of different industries. They're really from all over the place. So I'm sure that many of them, just like Scott, would be happy to share their experiences and feedback for anybody interested or anybody on the fence and needing a little bit more encouragement. And then speaking of the different industries, UniPay can really work for so many different types of organizations. So, you know, this screen here, this is just a few of the different industries that we've worked with in the past or that could work on the UniPay side. Just, you know, when you start thinking about it, it really is massive, the reach that UniPay could have. So, you know, think of all of the payments or donations that you might make on a regular basis. So, you know, are you paying fees to your child's school, or donating to the PTO, or paying for your taxes to be done by your accountant? The list really goes on and on. So if you have a need to collect payments online, if you want to do it securely, again, without breaking the bank, very cost effective, it's worth that one-on-one conversation, and we can figure out if UniPay is the right fit for you. Now, this part here, I often get asked, you know, while I'm having conversations with folks, or even, you know, in a presentation like this, one question that always comes up without fail is, why should I choose UniPay over some of the other payment systems that are out there? And it really is such a great question. So it led me to think about, from, you know, a broad perspective, trying to be as broad as possible. I think there are 5 things that really set us apart. Number one, our local community bank presence. We're real people. I think that's so important. We live in the community here. We support the organizations that we serve. I feel like this is so important, especially in these times, that you're with someone that is willing to give back in any way that they can. We also provide that ongoing support. So we mentioned, not only is it for you, but it would also be for your customers. We don't disappear. Once we set up the system for you, we truly want you to be successful. We truly want you to be happy. And that kind of goes right into my third point here. We customize the approach to fit your needs completely. So we'll offer those recommendations. We have so many customers that will share with you how they've used the system and then help you decide if that will work for you as well. And then number 4, we provide all of that detailed reporting and the payment notifications. I've heard stories of people, using other systems in the past and just not knowing where the payment came from, whose account it should be applied to. There are no guessing games here with UniPay on who paid what and whether or not that payment was received. And lastly, regarding the pricing, right? UniPay is very cost effective. So I do have a one-time onboarding fee. That's just one time, truly. There's no recurring or annual charges that go along with the system. And then we have that small per item transaction fee, that 50 cents there. And then depending on if you choose to only offer electronic check, or if you're also doing credit card, as I mentioned too, you could potentially pass that transaction fee on to your customers if you'd like to do that. So that is that. Those are my top 5 reasons. Again, trying to be as broad, universal as possible here. I do think it's important to know, every customer that we have is a little bit different. So you all here listening to me today, you have an idea of how you want your receivables process to work. You know what information you need, what works best for you. So it's just a matter of having those types of conversations with us here and just seeing if UniPay can help you to achieve that. All right, I am going to turn things back over to Katie, see if any more questions have trickled in here.
I do have another question, Kristy. Someone has a question about using UniPay exclusively. They aren't sure if they can get rid of their current software and are wondering if they can use both.
Okay, great question. I, of course, want to hear a little bit more about what the current system does. A lot of times I'm curious to know, what features do you love about your current system that are absolute must-haves, and maybe what you wish you could change and why you're looking elsewhere. And that way we can really pinpoint what improvements UniPay can bring. But that being said, there's also nothing to say you can't run 2 systems simultaneously. We have a lot of customers that do that. So, for example, I might have somebody that keeps their merchant processing services that they have in-house. They might keep those for the credit card piece when they're in person, or maybe one-off where people need to use the card. And then the rest of the customers, they encourage them to pay via ACH or electronic check on the UniPay system. That way they can, enjoy the smaller processing fees. I have some customers, I'll say that they require 100% payments are made through UniPay. There's no other option for them to pay. They push people towards that. And then we have others that are a little bit more flexible with it. So it's just offering UniPay as yet another method of payment for their customers to choose from. So they'll still accept the money regardless of how it comes in, which I don't know about you, but I think we all would do that. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have a couple other questions. If someone is already registered on UniPay, do they need to register again to pay us?
That's an excellent question. No, they would not need to register again. So that same profile that they set up would be able to be used on yours as well. So I mentioned that URL that we provide that would have your unique payment center. In addition to that, if you're familiar, with the system at all, there's a home button up at the top, and that will bring you to, right now we have a large, quite large drop-down list, but it lists out all of our customers that are currently using the system. So if anybody wanted to take a peek at that, But from there, they could access your payment center in addition to other payment centers as well, all under the same login. So they do not need to register again if they're already within the UniPay system.
Great. And here's another question for you, Kristy. How long does it take to get set up on UniPay?
So it really depends. As you can tell, there are numerous ways to set up the system. So depending on the complexity, it's typically around a 30-day turnaround time for our brand new customers. We try to make the process as straightforward as possible. It really won't take too much legwork on your end. First thing that we do, we'll go ahead and establish the bank account if they don't have one already here at UniBank for those deposits to trickle into. And then we'll also coordinate with the merchant processor if they wanted to accept credit cards online through UniPay. And then from there, what I would do, I'd plan to schedule some one-on-one time, about 30 minutes or so, and just kind of gain a better understanding of what the current accounts receivables process looks like in your business or organization. And then that way I can, offer some recommendations, see how we should set up your payment center. And then once we figure that out, that's when our team in the office, they really get to work. They go through and design the entire payment center for you. So once that part's complete, it's going to go through our internal audit department for accuracy. And then our team goes ahead, they provide you with a full detailed welcome email, and that contains all of the links, any instructions that you might need to make UniPay then available to your customers.
Great. Kristy, I do have another question here. Do I have to sign any type of contract?
Good question. So we do have a couple of agreements that you would review and sign if you wanted to move forward with UniPay. You'll often hear me say, though, unlike some other ones where people feel locked in, you're not tied down to anything. Of course, we are real people here, so we just ask if you're ever thinking of stopping UniPay for any reason, just give us a call. We have so many different ways to set things up, and we really strive to make sure that it makes the most sense and works the best for you. But for the agreements, the first one we have is our standard UniPay agreement, and that basically provides you with access to the UniPay system. And then the second agreement, which for our current customers, they might have already signed, but it's our bank's ACH agreement, and this will allow us to process those electronic check payments on your behalf. And then again, if you were interested in offering credit cards as well, we would just connect you with our merchant processor and fill out that application.
Okay, we've got another question. Is UniPay able to offer paperless invoicing for me?
Paperless invoicing, yes. So there are options to offer your customers paperless invoicing or even bill presentment. So with our municipal customers, many of them work with us in conjunction with their current bill printer to either offer e-bill or bill presentment. So we do also extend these features over to the business and nonprofit customers that we have. But I will say, up until this point, I think most have opted to just continue handling their invoice procedure on their end. And what they'll do is they'll just simply link to UniPay for the payment collection piece within their invoice. So they'll send their invoice, whether it's through the mail or electronic, and then they'll include the link to UniPay for them to complete that payment process. But we'd certainly be willing to have a more detailed conversation with anybody to see what they had in mind if that's something they were interested in.
Great. Another question here, Kristy. Can the system update my software automatically when payments are made? Yes, they can. So there's a few different ways that our customers choose to have those payments posted. So again, when you think of the system in terms of being simple or sophisticated, there's definitely some options there. Some prefer to manually post payments themselves. That way they can control
that it's done. And they do that with the email notifications, the report, that lockbox file I mentioned. And then others still, they'll have us set up the lockbox file to be in that acceptable file format. That way it can be easily imported right into their software for posting. And then from there, the next level up from that, they have automating the payment process, or sorry, the posting process, I should say. So what happens in that case is UniPay will export the lockbox file to a secure location. And from there, you know, the IT staff or any staff, what they do is they go and remotely grab the payment details at a specific time each day. So usually that happens overnight. And then the last way that we can set it up is actually a full API. So our remote transaction interface, for those that, you know, might be a little bit more sophisticated and able to work with us on that type of setup, that's where the system will actually talk to another one during the payment process. So I'm getting a little technical here, but yes, there are multiple ways to set up how the payments received can get posted.
Great. I think we have time for one more quick question, and thankfully we've only got one. These are all great questions. I'm so excited that everybody's so engaged. What is the one-time setup fee for nonprofits?
Sure, great question. Oh, yes, I did not mention the actual fee. I apologize for that. So it's just $250. Again, that is just the one time. So that allows us, you know, to be able to meet with you one-on-one and really customize that site for you. So that's the initial setup fee. Okay, so that was it for questions, Katie?
Yes, no more questions.
Okay, good. We're doing great timing-wise too, it looks like. So I just wanted to say thank you all so much for your time today. Happy to answer any additional questions that you might have offline. I'm, you know, really looking forward to connecting with you all one-on-one. We'll be sure to follow up after this session. And then as I turn it back over to Katie, though, we just wanted to do one last poll of the audience, if you'll let us. You know, we shared a lot of information here today. Just curious if the webinar met your expectations. So go ahead and enter your responses there. And Katie will take it over from here.
Great. I'm just going to give people another second or two. Thank you all for your participation. I'm going to close out the poll. And here on your screen, you're going to see Kristy's contact information. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. We encourage you to reach out to Kristy directly to discuss how UniPay can help you collect online payments. We're going to be emailing out a recording of the presentation to everyone here today. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great afternoon.